entrance of the official party, Marines Memorial Association Chairman, Mr. Rick Hartnett, and our guest of honor, former Secretary of the State, the Honorable George P. Shultz, and remain standing for the marching on of the colors and the playing of the national anthem.
Present! Good! Present! Order. Go. Order. Sword.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Continue to distinguish themselves on many battlefields and foreign shores in war and peace. On this birthday of the Corps, therefore, in recognition of the will of the 13th Commandant, a reminder of the Corps' honorable service is published as follows.
On November 10, 1775, a Corps of Marines was created by a resolution of the Continental Congress. Since that date, many thousand men have borne the name Marine. In memory of them, it is fitting that we, who are Marines, should commemorate the birthday of our Corps by calling to mind the glories of its long and illustrious history. The record of our Corps is one which will bear comparison with that of the most famous military organizations in the world's history. During 90 of the first 146 years of its existence, the Marine Corps has been in action against the nation's foes. From the Battle of Trenton to the Argonne, Marines have won foremost honors in war, and in the long years of tranquility at home, generation after generation of Marines have grown gray in war in both hemispheres and in every corner of the 7 seas, that our country and its citizens might enjoy peace and security. In every battle and skirmish since the birth of our Corps, the Marines have acquitted themselves with the greatest distinction, winning new honors on each occasion, until the term Marine has come to signify all that is highest in military efficiency and soldierly virtue. This high name of distinction and soldierly repute we who are Marines today have received from those who have preceded us in the Corps. With it, we have also received from them the eternal spirit which has animated our Corps from generation to generation and has been the distinguishing mark of the Marines in every age. So long as that spirit continues to flourish, Marines will be found equal to every emergency in the future as they have been in the past. And the men of our nation will regard us as worthy successors to the long line of illustrious men who have served as soldiers of the sea since the founding of the Corps.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The first piece of cake is being presented to our guest of honor, the Honorable George P. Shultz. The next piece of cake is given to the oldest Marine, who passes it to the youngest Marine present, symbolizing the experience and the youthful spirit that are the hallmarks of our Corps. The third piece of cake is presented to the oldest Marine present, Major George W. Parker, United States Marine Corps, retired. He was born on 19 October 1918 in Corning, California. Commissioned in the Marine Corps on 2 February 1942. The passing of the cake from the oldest to the youngest Marine symbolizes the passing of history and tradition to the next generations. The youngest Marine present is Corporal Adrian Chavez. He was born 26 September 1999 in Modesto, California. He enlisted in the Marine Corps 18 September 2017 and graduated MCRD San Diego 15 December 2017. He is currently assigned to Headquarters Company, 23rd Marine Regiment.
On behalf of our board of directors, our fabulous management team, the wonderful employees here at the Association and Club, and all the Marines on the stage with us, we want to welcome you and wish you a very happy 244th Marine Corps birthday. Tonight it's my privilege to introduce our guest of honor. Without any doubt, he enjoyed one of the most diverse and accomplished careers of any member of the greatest generation. A combat Marine officer in World War II, a leading academic that studied, taught, and led some of the finest educational institutions in America, a successful business leader, and a leader in our government across several decades. Maybe most notable, as Secretary of State in the Reagan administration, he was a leader in shaping the foreign policy that ended the Cold War and reunified Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Secretary of State George Shultz.
Hey, Marine! 75. I want to tell you something, that cake is pretty good. But they only gave me time to have a couple of bites. Come on. Hoorah! Now, Jim Mattis is back at Stanford's Hoover Institution again.
You're right.
And he's Secretary of Defense, but you go in his office, it's all plastered with Marine Corps stuff. So he's a Marine, don't forget. Now, everybody's reading Jim's book, which is worthwhile. Terrific book. But there's one thing about it that's particularly striking, because Jim is a great reader of history. And you learn. And he, in his book, every once in a while, he pauses. And he said, I had this experience. What did I learn from that experience? So it's always learning from experience. So I thought maybe I would tell you a few things that I learned as a Marine that helped me in my life. First of all, I'm in boot camp at the start of World War II. The sergeant hands me my rifle. He says, take good care of this rifle, this is your best friend. And remember one thing, never point this rifle at anybody unless you're willing to pull the trigger. No empty threats. The Marines live by that idea, because then when we're coming, people know we mean business. We had a terrible incident when President Obama, you may remember, made a big thing out of the Syrians used chemical weapons is going to be held to pay, and they used them and nothing happened. Empty threat destroys you. So no empty threats is the first thing to remember. But then that adage has another aspect to it that's much more positive. Because if you're known as somebody who does what you say you're going to do, then they can deal with you. If you're Secretary of State, you're dealing with members of Congress or something, and they say, okay, I'll vote for this if you'll do that. That'll work if they trust you. If they know you do what you say you're going to do. So in all these human dealings, the second thing to remember, trust is the coin of the realm. So there we have no empty threats, trust is the coin of the realm. Live by those two things. Then I got out of boot camp, I go to artillery school and overseas. Everybody has these fancy uniforms on. I never had a uniform, I just went. And so you're in boot camp and in training and so on. War is kind of an abstract thing, but then you get over and you get pretty tight. And I had a wonderful sergeant by the name of Patton. I relied on him, I liked him, we were friends. And he was a terrific guy. And we had some action going on. I ran over to where I thought he was. I said, where the hell's Patton? Patton's dead, sir. I'll never forget that moment. The reality of war sinks in. Wonderful people get killed. And later, when I was Secretary of State and had a chance to advise President Reagan on whether to use force, I always said to myself, remember, Patton, be sure your mission is a good mission. Be sure you equip people and set them up so they can accomplish the mission. Because it's got to be worthwhile. Remember, Patton. In the Reagan period, we only used force once, and that was in Grenada. We developed a lot of strength, and people knew that we would pull the trigger, but we were strong. And we always were careful if we're going to send people in harm's way. And I always said to the president, remember, Patton. Then on another incident, we were on this island that we'd taken, and there was a nearby island where the natives were. And they made grass skirts and little canoes and so on. The Marines found out about it. They wanted to go over and buy them and send them home for souvenirs. So we made a deal. They could go over for 2 hours. And I went over with the first bunch. And I watched this process. Marines wanted to make deals. And the natives were having a hell of a ball negotiating. They were enjoying it. And guess what happened to the prices? Everything goes up. I had to step in and say, look, set a price and let the Marines decide whether they want to buy it or not. But the lesson was, if you want to deal too much, you're going to get a lousy deal. So I can remember times I was testifying and people would say, aren't you worried that you haven't made a deal yet with the Soviet Union? I said, I'm not interested in a deal. Deal for a deal's sake is nothing. I'm only interested in a good deal. So I remembered the Marines over there in that island and said to myself, only a good deal. Deals as such are not worth a damn. So those are some lessons I learned in my time as a Marine Corps. But I learned so much more. And the closeness and friendship and loyalty to each other, I think one of the things that distinguishes Marines and probably other services too, but I speak for the Marines, we're friends, we support each other, we're loyal to each other, we trust each other. We know our fellow Marine will help us if we need it. So I'm all for it. Simplify. Go Marine Corps! Here's another story. One time, it was my birthday, and I came down from a meeting I was in, and my wife was there, Charlotte, and I was going to go to the meeting, and she said, no, you're getting in the car. So we get in this car, and we ride over to an airport. This is where the Bechtel, I was president of the Bechtel company at the time, and there's a plane waiting for us, the shades are all down. I get on the plane, there's my son, his wife, and grandchildren. And I didn't know what was going on. We take off, we fly for about an hour. And I figured we were in Palm Springs. I said, do you bring my golf clubs? So I was the last to get off the plane. And when I got off the plane, there's a Marine Corps major down there, and he salutes. And I get into a Marine Corps car. And we drive along, and all of a sudden I realize, I'm not going to Palm Springs, I'm going to Pendleton. So we ride up and come up this hill, and all of a sudden I see a general there and a couple of other people. And I get out, and they escort me into this big auditorium full of Marines. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah! Everybody's big time. And so I sit down, and all of a sudden I realize the general is introducing me. So I have to get up and say something. So I start to talk, and all of a sudden the major who had met me at the aircraft running in with his cell phone saying, Mr. Secretary, Secretary Colin Powell's on the phone for you. So he hands me the phone. I talk to Colin, and I'm saying what he's saying, and the Marines are all yelling. And then I hand the phone back, and the next time he comes, President of the United States on the phone for you. And I talk to him. Next thing you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger's on the phone for you. And so it went. So it was a big day, but I'll never forget that. But then the general took me to his quarters, and he talked about Iraq. And I was very struck by what he said, because we hear all the time, no better friend, no worse enemy. But he was telling me how the Marine strategy was, if we went to a place, we tried to make it secure and livable for the people there, so we were no better friend. Some other units, I won't name them, barely went in and they tried to kill everybody, not us. We wanted to make a friend, and create a secure environment, and take charge that way. So I say, simplify, go Marine Corps.
may thank him for his presence here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the retiring of the colors and the playing of Anchor Awake and the Marines hymn.
Sword!
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in another round of applause for Major Shultz. As the ceremony comes to a close, I want to thank the members and the Marines from the 1st Marine Division Band. Round of applause for them, please. The 23rd Marine Regiment for the excellent ceremony detail. And Mr. Eric Lykin, our bagpiper. And of course, none of this would have been possible without the smooth hand of our general manager, Michael Allen. He's got a great staff, and you're going to be able to taste some of the delights of Chef Paul Lazito in a little bit, and you're going to be able to see the beauty that our head caterer, Kirsty Heon, did. It's just beautiful upstairs, and I can't say enough about her, Paul, and the staff, and all the servers and chefs, and everybody who helped put tonight together. Thank you all very much, and a round of applause for them, and give them some thanks if you get their opportunity. Thank you all for attending. It's been going to be even a better evening yet. Please remain seated as the Piper plays Scotland the Brave. I look forward to the pleasure of your company upstairs at the ball. Happy birthday, Marines.